All right, this is Kali Akuno in Oakland, California, reporting on Sunday, December 5th, 2010. This is for the Black Agenda Morning Shot for Monday, December 6th, 2010. I'm here with Maisha and Michael, who will be introducing themselves, talking about gang injunctions in Oakland, California. So, Maisha and Michael, if you don't mind introducing yourselves real quickly for our audience.
My name is Maisha Quint, and I work for the East Side Arts Alliance. We run a cultural center in East Oakland.
And I'm Michael Siegel. I'm a civil rights attorney here in Oakland, and I represent several of the defendants who have been targeted by a gang injunction here.
All right, so for our audience, break down for us what a gang injunction is. I mean, those of us in California may be familiar with them the past 15, 20 years, but for a national audience who may not know what a gang injunction is, what exactly is it?
Basically, a gang injunction is like a restraining order. It's kind of the most clear way to explain it. Even though they're talking about criminal acts, this is a civil lawsuit. And so here what we have in Oakland is the Oakland City Attorney has decided to file a lawsuit against an alleged gang. And what he does is he writes up a complaint and he names all these terrible activities, murder and mayhem. Then the last few paragraphs talk about a public nuisance. And that's really what the lawsuit is about, is preventing people from being a nuisance. And we could talk about the problems with that language, but in particular what he's asking is that a court subject each of the defendants to a penalty if they violate the terms of the injunction. So it'll say, do not associate with known gang members. And if you violate that, that's 6 months in jail or $2,000 fine. It'll say, do not have implements to make graffiti. Do not have drug paraphernalia. Do not wear colors. Do not intimidate witnesses by displaying tattoos. There's basically 12 different points that it tries to call out as nuisance activities. And because the city attorney has a special power to deal with nuisances, he's using that power to try to get tough on crime and name people in a gang injunction.
So, I mean, why Oakland now? You know, what is driving the city attorney and the other powers that be that are pushing this? Why are they doing this now? What are they hoping to get out of this?
Well, in answering that, it's important to look at how the gang injunction, what Michael's saying is basically you have at the discretion of the police to determine who gets on this list according to all the different aspects that Michael spoke to. And so we have to understand what that means for Black and brown communities, right? When you have at the discretion the police to decide who gets to be on the list and whose rights get to be violated or not, that's a huge issue for those of us who live in this country who are victims of structural racism and oppression. And so so there's some unique things to Oakland, but it's also important to remember that the gang injunctions are a further violation of, the rights of Black and brown people in this city and in other cities where they've, been implemented or tried to be implemented. And does it really make us any safer to know that police now, they already can kill us at whim? We've seen that with Oscar Grant case. We've seen that with multiple instances of police brutality. So is it really a safe thing for the community to further allow and give broader, discretion to police forces to now label anyone in a certain neighborhood or area or block as a gang member, and then a series of things can follow. So that's one of the major issues with the gang injunction. In Oakland specifically, we have to look at the other issues that are going on. Oakland in the past, I would say 10 years, has seen a huge boom in the gentrification, in the pushing out of particularly Black and brown families across the city. There have been specific neighborhoods where this has been at an exponential rate. North Oakland, I would say, has been completely changed from when I was younger growing up in the city to now. The huge influx of mostly white families, also when you look at what's happening with the foreclosure and the people losing their homes, so Black and brown families are literally getting pushed out of this neighborhood and white families are coming in. North Oakland was also the first neighborhood and community that the city attorney wanted to have the gang injunctions. So if we look at the neighborhoods that are being targeted, North Oakland, the next neighborhood is the Fruitvale district, which has a huge population of Latino and Chicano families and community members. after that, Michael's going to probably speak to what they're trying to do in West Oakland, which has also been a hot bastion of gentrification. So we're literally looking at the restructuring of the city of Oakland, the reimagining, and the just a totally different look of how Oakland operates and who lives here. And we're seeing the gang injunctions allow for that, and under the guise of public safety. But what you're doing is further isolating and pushing out people of color in these neighborhoods, and under the sanction of police activity and the police doing their job. So that's one aspect.
When did the gang injunctions start in Oakland?
Well, in Oakland, they started basically last year. The movement started in Southern California, and interestingly enough, we have a police chief who has imported the gang injunction strategy. So he was the former police chief in Long Beach, where they've tried this strategy out. It started there in the 80s. It's been done in San Jose, San Francisco, in the Central Valley. But he's basically one of the reasons that the gang injunctions are here is because we have this Long Beach police chief who likes them. Another factor that's going on is we have opportunism. And some of your viewers may have heard of the shock doctrine. How, for example, in New Orleans, they took the flood as an opportunity to privatize the school district. And we have to look at this as another shock doctrine. We have an economic crisis, everything that Maisha laid out. And then we've got federal stimulus money coming in. And guess what? In Oakland, the stimulus money is law enforcement. So we have OPD that are buying toys to use on protesters. We have sound cannons. And we also have grants to gather all the data for a gang injunction. There's a crime-fighting initiative that in Oakland is known as the Call-In Program. It comes out of something called Operation Ceasefire in Boston. It's been used in Chicago. And it's this model where the idea is that you threaten people and then divert them into programs for school or jobs. And so what they do in Oakland is they create a list, and they say these are the most undesirable people in a certain neighborhood. And they call them into a meeting. They spend the first hour threatening them. You have the U.S. attorney, the district attorney. They're saying, I'm going to nickel and dime you. I'm going to put you in jail for 20 years with a gang enhancement. The DA gets on his high horse, the U.S. attorney, the probation. And then to comply with this program, they spend the last 20 minutes of the meeting saying, okay, send the cops out of the room. We're going to offer you jobs. We're going to set you up into school. And it's this absurd idea that that's going to somehow address a root problem in our community, that's really an honest way to divert people into school, when in actuality, you're oppressing people, you're threatening them, and you're scaring really an entire community.